Hello, and a very warm welcome once again to the Change Exchange, where my guest today is Kieno Kammies. More used to being on radio, eh?
Absolutely, absolutely. But what a pleasure to be interviewed by you, by the way.
Thank
I used
you.
to watch you each and every Sunday. But just great to be here.
You call me Tanny. This is the end of it.
Excellent. Nooit doen nie, Tanny. I mean, sorry, Ruda.
Kieno, you grew up on the Cape Flats. Sketch a picture?
I grew up in a place called Elsies River. It's a bit like Manenberg, Bonteheuwel. It's gang infested. The kids who grow up in these areas don't have much in the way of a future or an horizon ahead of them that they can look at and go, hey, that's what I want to achieve. And having said that, though, I know a lot of successful people from Elsies River who've had good influences in their lives. But generally speaking, the area, and even if you go back there today, you still find kids running around with very, very little in the way of a future.
So what made the difference for you? What made you think, I can go beyond this?
Well, I think my parents. Well, my mom was at home most of the time. My dad was working his hindy off just to put food on the table. My mother as well, but my mom was always the one who interacted with us mostly.
Big family?
No, 4 of us. Just myself, my mom, my dad, my sister Natalie. And I used to dream quite a lot. Overactive imagination along with my ADD and everything else. And my mother and my father never ever said to me, you can never do that. My mother always said, dream and follow your dreams. We used to take drives through Sea Point when we still couldn't live there. We used to drive through Bishop's Court when we couldn't live there. And I used to say to my mom, I want to get a house here one day. Now I still can't afford to live in Bishop's Court. But, the country's changed. Now I remember my dad saying he doesn't think that the country will ever change while he's alive. But my mom retorted, no, and it can. And it's the children who can do it for us. And it's that sort of positive reinforcement of my ideas and my dreams that made me look further than, Holt Road, which is the main road in Elsies River, and maybe think across the bridge into Parow, and then further than Parow, and increase my horizon and what I believe I can do.
So did the 94 changeover change your life personally?
Well, I played I say an integral part. No, I didn't. I mean, I wasn't part of Codessa. I wasn't part of any of those things, but I was in the media at the time. A man by the name of Jimmy Matthews, who now is the CEO of the SABC. We won't say much about that particular job right now.
Let's not go there.
Let's not even go there. But I can tell you, Jimmy was a great influence in my life. I remember after when I matriculated, I took a year off. Well, I was thinking about a year off. Parents allowed me to do that. To figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And I watched a bit of Bold and the Beautiful. So between the Bold and the Beautiful and reading my dad's newspapers, I looked at this thing going, this must be very interesting interviewing all these people. And I made a press pass, my own little press pass, and went into some ANC event. I met Jimmy Matthews there. And Jimmy said to me, why didn't you come to Reuters? Because that's where he worked at the time. And I went to Reuters. Long story short, I made coffee for them for about 6-7 months, figured out how cameras worked, video worked, sound, and I ended up doing sound, and I became a runner. So by the time we got to Mandela being released, etc., I was a sound man and a runner, a tape runner. So I was there when everything was unfolding. I was holding a microphone when Mandela became president, and I sat 2 meters away from him with this boom mic, looking at this man and just being absolutely amazed when they were standing on, the steps of Parliament. I was there with a little Nikon FM camera taking photos that I still have. So yes, I mean, in terms of the changeover experience, it's been phenomenal for me.
Did you realize at the time, I mean, coming from the background of we cannot do that, we cannot do that, we can't live there, we can't do that job. Did you realize at the time that those restrictions were just suddenly, in one fell swoop, they fell away?
Well, Not really, because we still have to go back home. And you still have to, live in your area, go back to your neighborhood where you only saw people who looked like you. I think the realization and the appreciation of what actually changed after 1994 really happened once I got my own place and I moved out and my circle of friends started expanding a lot more. I was just excited that this guy, Nelson Mandela, was released and, he's president of the country, and I don't think I thought
Yes.
as deeply as, hey, what's the paradigm shift for the country going to be? What's the actual experiential shift going to be for the country at that time? No, I don't think I did.
How did you get into radio?
I was a SABC cameraman at Seapoint, or at the Seapoint offices. And I used to run up, I think it was to the second, or run down to the second floor where Good Hope FM broadcasted from. And there was a guy called Graham White, the Vanilla Thriller, I remember that. And I used to sit with Graham, and as I did with Reuters, I sat around, made coffee. Then he allowed me to push a couple of buttons on the desk. And eventually he could take long coffee breaks because I was quite proficient in mixing the music. And then one day Graham said to me, why don't you try and do a voice tape? Because I always pretended to be on radio and he used to come in and listen to me. He says, you should do a voice tape. And we did. We went downstairs to the studios, the basement of the SABC. And on quarter inch, we used to edit. We used to, you couldn't see stuff like you can on all the fancy equipment they've got these days. And we edited a voice piece for me. We handed it over. And I think it was Randall Abrams at the time, who was stand-in program manager at Good Hope FM, said, listen, how would you like a weekend slot? And then they offered me a weekend slot. Do
you remember the first time you actually sat at the microphone and this was your show now?
Yeah, I was scared, and I can't use that word that follows scared, but I was very scared. And I remember Mark Gilman at the time phoning in off air after I did my first link. He says, you sound SH1T. He says, you sound SH1T, you must blind. He says, you're not going to make it long in radio, but he was like that. He said that to me. But I'm happy to say that I think collectively I've been in radio longer than he's been. So I remember that first time I was very, very scared, but once again, with mom's support and dad's support and the family and a couple of people, the 4 people who listened to me, they started building my confidence, and I just moved on from there.
But it sounds as if the lesson from that is get out there and start, even if it is by making coffee.
Do it, exactly. It's the same in business as well. People sit and hana about their future, and they make plans, and they draw up 5-page documents about their future. Your future can only happen once you take the first step. Your future can only happen once you start living what you want to be. And that's what I've learned. I didn't know when I made coffee that any of these things were going to happen. But in retrospect, like old Steve Jobs says, there are dots all over the place. Eventually you start connecting them. You just need to put your foot in the door and don't go in with huge expectations. Show people what, the right attitude, the right aptitude to be able to do it, and you will progress from there. And I think that's a very important lesson, and I say that to students when I talk to them at university, or when I just chat to young people, generally speaking. Come out and they want to have a 60 grand a month salary and they want to become managing director. You can if you start your own business. I'm not saying you can't do that, but you'd be part of the 0.2%.
And it probably won't start, it won't be on day one.
It won't be on day one. You have to work from the ground up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just a very good friend of mine is Jonathan Ackerman, Raymond Ackerman's son. And he said to me, when he was down here, his dad sent him into the things at Belleville, at the pick and pay at Belleville, and he had to pack the shelves and do everything and work his way up, and had to get to understand what life in a retail store was about. And that's the sort of thing I would encourage people to do. Even if your parents have a lot of money, it's no use partying, and then taking over the business at the end. If you start from the ground up, you just gain so much, and it also helps build your EQ. Because I don't believe that IQ is necessarily the most important thing in the world. I think it's that emotional quotient that's very important in life, because you have to deal with people at the end of the day.
You now have your own company, which tries to enhance this in companies?
Yes,
do I understand that correctly?
It's a strategy business. And people try and complicate strategy. My firm belief is that strategy is about understanding people, understanding their needs, delivering on those particular needs cleverly. right? So that you can beneficiate yourself as well at the end of the day. And they call that sort of thing a business. So what I do in the business, two things. So we look at people strategies in business. Sounds fancy, but it's not really. Normally you get HR departments that look at your CV and they go, okay, that's my CV. This is the job. Do they match? Great, you've got the job. But what they don't do is find out more about the people that they interview. You've got to understand what people's hierarchical value systems are. If you understand what makes them tick, it will help you in integrating them into the business, but it'll also help you to incentivize them at a later stage. Because people have different things. If you're a single mom and you dote over your child, when it's your child's birthday, and you know that the kid loves X, Y, Z, you get them something with a handwritten note as the manager. CEOs can't necessarily do that, but you empower the management to be able to deal with people on a personal level. It's not always the money. Money is important, but building emotional connections with people in the workplace, understanding them, understanding that people also want to, they've got trajectories in life, they want to get somewhere, they want to feel appreciated. How do you actually do that within the business space? So we work on that. And then we also do turnarounds. And I just took myself for a little course. It's nothing fancy at Harvard, which is a management consulting course, just to see what the actual structure was for it. And then came back here and took that particular structure, turned it on its head. And so what we do from a management consulting point of view is to help businesses turn around. For example, we bring on people who've retired but have the IP as the consultants. That's the thinking behind that part of the business. So, yeah.
What made you decide to start this business? You're a radio person.
My passion for entrepreneurship has been there forever. Always wanted to start my own business. The opportunity availed itself probably about 3-4 years ago to do some communication strategy work, which I did, and then thought, hey, hold on, I actually like this. I deal with people, I can change the way people relate to each other, put the right processes in place, but I don't know to do all this business speak stuff. But I really started enjoying it and then thought to myself, where to from here? What do I need to do to empower myself to take this business further and build it and make sure that I offer a unique value proposition, as they call it? So,
what did the American experience do to you? How did it change you? Did it change your view of the world?
I sat in the course and I listened to it and I questioned a lot of what they did in terms of process, because my thinking went contrary to some of the things that they said we should do on the course. Like the management consultants would go in and, lip service, generally speaking, is paid to what the people actually say on the ground. And I'm going, but hold on. You just did a case study where consultants went in and they spoke to senior management and the board and lower level management, and very little interaction with staff on the ground, the people who actually make this business
do the job.
Isn't that an important part of it? So I looked at how they went about doing things, then looked at what my personal experience has been and said, but hold on, I'm sure one can do this better. But on the other hand, there were phenomenal tools that they had that could help one almost contextualize a particular situation and then turn it around. And then there's the networking side, which to me is the most important capital in the world. I mean, it's something you'll know very well. You network with people, you build genuine relationships, which I have, and you just, as they say, make your circle bigger. And once again, those dots get connected later in life. So for me, it was a great experience in terms of just looking at how they think in the United States when it comes to business processes, etc. But then also the exposure to the people and the experiences that they shared with me opened my mind as well. And
maybe the understanding that even though we are down here at the bottom end of Africa, some of my ideas are just as good or better than theirs. That must have been
That is so true. And, and today, I mean, you talk to people who are professors, deans, and you share your ideas with them and they're going, wow.
So trust yourself.
Trust yourself.
And your instinct.
Yes. And just be true to who you are at the end of the day. Every bit of experience that we have on a daily basis, increases the, I don't know, how does one put this properly? I'm just trying to think. When you live life, you don't always see it as part of the ammunition that you can take forward and use later. Everything we do if we just listen and experience, we can actually use that to our own benefit and help other people improve themselves based on our experiences as well.
You do a lot of charity work, both on radio and in your personal life. What motivates that?
You know, Rita, I like being able to stand up. I don't want to say this, but I like wanting to stand up for the underdog. You know, there are people who have great potential and they don't realize it. There are people who are downtrodden and everybody else just moves on with their lives. Because I at one stage was also, you know, growing up in the flats in Elsies River where there are loads of gangs around us. And if it weren't for people who showed faith in me and helped me get a leg up, then I wouldn't be where I am today. So I look at my experience once again and I go, how can I be a positive influence in other people's lives? How can I use the platform that I'm on to try and change people, either give people, generally speaking, a paradigm shift when it comes to the way they look at things, or assist someone who really needs that assistance. And I firmly believe in paying it forward. So if we help you, you need to go out and help someone else. So I do it because I'm not Mother Teresa. I'm a capitalist. I'm a capitalist with a social conscience. I think it's probably not exactly Bernie Sanders, but I'm a capitalist with a social conscience. I believe that you can enrich yourself, but at the same time, you should be trying to make a difference in other people's lives so that they too can see the path ahead of them.
Plans, dreams, professionally?
I could say run this this international consultancy, but we'll see where that goes. I'm not going to think too far ahead. I can dream about those sort of things. Professionally, I'd like to see the business stand on its own, you know, take on the Bains of this world and the other big consultancies, but really bring EQ into the equation when it comes to the type of consulting that we do. I'd like to own my own media house one day as well. I believe media is very important. It's a very powerful tool.
Which media?
Well, for me, digital media is important. It's the next, it's a big thing out there. It's just how you use it. So digital media and then broadcast media. If I could buy my own radio group, I would buy it. I mean, if I could buy Prime Media tomorrow, I'd buy it. Radio is powerful. Radio is immediate. It's something I know intimately. And I don't want to dabble in things I know too little about. So,
can I ask you, when was the first time you realized how powerful radio is? And I know that from my own experience on television, how powerful broadcasting is. That people respond, people react. Yes. And with radio, when you tell a story, they phone in immediately and they say, how can I help this child? When was the first time you realized that?
I think just looking at the outpouring of emotion was September 11th. If one just looks at a big media event internationally. I was on air on Cape Talk in the afternoon. I was watching CNN. I saw one of the towers alight. We were the first radio show to break the news of 9/11, the very first one. Our management team was still sitting and doing whatever managers do, whatever that might be, in the office. And I said, we have to go live with this. We still hadn't known what happened. And but they said, it's going to cost. I said, if I have to pay for it, and I had no money at the time, trust me, but I said, if I have to pay for it, I'll pay for it, but go live with it. And they went live, and the managers all came out after they were told that this is happening. And I said,
do you mean you took the feed from?
We took the feed from CNN and did it live on air.
Put it on air.
We put it live on air. And then we started chasing down journalists, etc., etc. But then I said, if you know anybody in America, in New York, give us a call. And I think the lady's name was Rose. Rose called into our show and said, my friend Ivy lives opposite the World Trade Center. By that time, all the lines weren't downed yet. So we managed to get hold of Ivy Lapin. And I remember her saying, I can hear planes flying over there, the military jets at the time. And I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about this, right? And she says, Kieno, I'm looking out of the window. Oh my God, people are jumping. People are jumping. And then she was close to crying because her kids were on the other side of Manhattan. So that's the one very powerful. And I mean, if I didn't have this jacket on, you'll see all my goosebumps. But that was the first time. But then on a regular basis almost. But I think the one that hits home, manager at the airports company of South Africa, mentioned something to me once, saying, I saw this guy sitting outside at the 7-Eleven. He had this kid. The kid was well dressed, neat, but he asked me for money. And I said no, because I just thought he's another beggar. But when I saw the kid, I went back and I said, why is this kid outside? And he explained that, he'd fallen on hard times and he's just looking for 20 Rand or 40 Rand so him and his kid can have a place to sleep that night. I then brought the guy on air with me and people opened up their hearts. A guy phoned in, offered an apartment for them to use as long as they want, offered the guy a job. People were willing to put money in to care for the kid. Man, there are good people out there. The fires in the Deep South. We raised about 4 million Rand between our two stations, KFM and Cape Talk, for the people who, fallen on hard times as a result of the fire. But I think the money was actually raised for the firefighters, actually. Let me not get that wrong. Yeah. The money was raised for the firefighters who were doing a very good job at the time.
So you absolutely, passionately believe in the power of this instrument that you have in your hand?
Yes, I do. Yes. I do. It's the one, listen, I don't like getting up early in the morning, but it's the one thing that makes me get up and makes me want to get to work and do the show. Ruta, we are surrounded by negative news. Number one and Kandla and whatever else is involved in. But we can't keep talking about that. We have to talk about it and we need to shine the light on corruption and self-serving behavior in the country, right? We have to do that, but we also need to shine a light on people who actually, I think, make up the majority of this country. People just want to be there and live their lives and assist other people where they can. I
often say, if you have a donut, don't stare at the hole. Enjoy the donut.
Exactly, I think well said. Absolutely well said.
Tell me about, you have two sons.
Yes, Cameron and Tada.
How did that change your life?
Wow. As I said, I've been on radio for almost 22 years, somewhere around there. I can't count that well. And initially, it's about going to this club, doing a bit of DJing there, bringing home the cash, enjoying that, jolling, whatever. You don't think further than the next weekend. When you start having kids, 180, yeah? You end up going, okay, so now I've got to look after this little thing. I've got to make sure that they've got a future. So everything you do, you asked me why I started the businesses. Part of that is to make sure that, once my radio gig ends, there's something else that I have, but I also have a legacy that I can leave for them. So it's very, very important for me to do that. You become more responsible. You don't worry about yourself as much, you worry about them. And yeah, it makes you, I think, a little bit more selfless, which is a good thing, especially for people in our industry, where everything tends to revolve around them and them only, because they're sitting in front of a TV, you're sitting behind a microphone, and everybody just goes gaga about you. For you, people ask me, say, you must have a like a job, eh? What's your most important job that you do? I said, my most important job is being a dad. That is the most important job. I happen to be a dad with a cool job which happens to be on radio. So,
what do you want to teach them?
I want to teach them that they must follow their hearts. Obviously, when I say follow your heart, I'm not saying go and smoke ganja so I think you need to obviously lead them down the path. But like my parents did for me, I want to allow them to dream and I want to allow them to follow the path that they want to follow. No judgment in the sense of, oh no, you should become a doctor my personal opinion on university degrees, I don't know if I should say it, but depending if you want to become a rocket scientist, yeah, a university degree is a good thing. But I think kids learn more when they leave matric. They go out, experience the world, make a couple of mistakes, as long as they're not really expensive ones or ones that last you for the rest of your life. What I'd like for them is to be able to be comfortable and passionate about what they do and how they live their lives. And it's got to be their own passion, not mine or anybody else's that's been engraved in them. So that's what I'd like for them.
And what we always end the show with is your home. What's your home like? When did you buy it? How long ago? And why? What sold it to you?
I've had a couple of homes. The home I live in at the moment is in a place called Sunningdale, which is in Bloberg area. I like it because it's a suburban home. It's got a garden, and that's me. I wasn't really the picket fence type of dude. We still don't have a picket fence, but It's got a lovely space, it's got garden, it's lekker gesellig, soos hulle in Afrikaans sê. I mean, you can sit and you can brine, I've got pizza kilns. And so what I love about the home is that you can bring people in there and you can have a really good time and you can connect with the people who you actually care about.
You lived in Johannesburg for about 10 years,
Yes.
and you say you don't miss it 1 minute.
Okay, maybe when I say I don't miss it 1 minute, I prefer Cape Town. I still like the vibe of Joburg. When you go there and you walk in Rosebank or Soweto or wherever you are, you know you're in Joburg as opposed to Slaapstad. I prefer Cape Town now. You talk about the kids, just from a lifestyle point of view. Things work in the city over here. When it rains, I don't have to all of a sudden hop onto William Nicol from Craighall Park 40 minutes earlier because I know that the lights aren't going to work. My 4x4 is used for actually going 4x4ing and camping and not trying to dodge potholes, but I'm sure Joburg's not that bad. I love the lifestyle in Cape Town, but I still have my best friends, my closest relationships were built in Johannesburg because I think people are more genuine in Joburg, I think.
I think people are more open because we are used to meeting new people all the time.
Yes, more cosmopolitan as well. So I enjoy that about Johannesburg, but in terms of just coming back and having a nice relaxed life, Cape Town's it for me. I go to Joburg in any case to do business and other stuff, so yeah.
What makes a house a home?
I think it's the laughter inside the home and it's the relationships inside the home. That to me, you could live in a pandok, right? And if you've got the right people around you, if you've got the right relationships and you get the parents like we had that pushed us in the right direction, I think that makes it a home. It's not about the bricks and mortar. Of course, it's lekker if you've got an extra room and you've got braai spaces, etc. But you can have a really bad time in a big house as opposed to having a really good time in a small home, as a juxtaposition, if I may. So yeah.
Is there some physical thing that you take with you? A carpet that you really love? A painting? Something?
My PlayStation Mini.
Okay.
I love PlayStation, okay? At 42, I still play, and Tiger Woods golf is still my favorite, and a couple of shooting games as well, but my PlayStation. But I also have a huge recliner, a massive leather recliner, which is like a bed. And I've fallen asleep on there more times than I care to admit.
That's Dad's place.
Dad's place, that's my chair, and it's big. 2 people can fit on there. I think Kulabuse could fit in there on his own, but 2 people, generally speaking, could fit on there, and that is my pride and joy. I don't do too many paintings, and you leave that up to the missus, all the other fancy stuff. Yeah, that and my NutriBullet. That's about it. If I had to take anything anywhere, I need to be able to, make milkshakes and smoothies and whatever, and I need to be able to relax as well. So yeah, those are, and let's not forget the PlayStation.
Kieno, thanks so much for joining us today, and all of the very, very best. I hope your business flourishes.
I hope so too, for my kids' sake. But thank you very much, Ruda, and I look forward to moving down to Cape Town sometime.
I have lived here. I'm not coming back.
You have to. Listen, thank you very much.
All of the very best. See you next time.